technology, the IT role was very limited, and I've seen that role grow over the years. And earlier, I always felt that the CIO was more doing a governance role. So his best friend or her best friend was the CFO. So be it the ERP implementation, be it the implementation of various financial software packages, the CIO and the CFO were joined at the hip. I think somewhere down the line, and that is the reason I've sought reinforcement this evening, and I've got Sanjay to sit into this conversation with me. I don't think that the CIO and the CFO relationship has got unhinged, but an additional hinge on the other side has got added on, and that is the CMO-CIO relationship. And that is primarily because the times have changed, because today the CIO, I see the role is more in the area of government than in the zone of governance. So if I were to read off the slide, this is the CMO-CIO crossover creates an organization and marketing and technology strategy that makes sense in the evolving digital era. And I believe the digital era is something that is really, really going to have a huge impact in the way we do business. I lived in Korea for 3.5, 4 years, and there used to be marketing campaigns which I could run digitally. I'd just go to the CIO and say, this is my brand challenge. Give me an optimum digital mix. And he'll come back to me saying that, okay, this is the kind of content. Yes. This is what the brand DNA is. And I say, yes. So therefore, this is the optimum digital media mix that you should be looking at. There was a Coke Zero campaign that I launched in Korea in 2007, which was only a digital campaign. And it was done by the CIO in conjunction with the CMO. So the barriers are breaking down. And I'll talk a little more about what we are doing in India as well. Okay, why in the current era this is of paramount importance? Because earlier it was one message, spray and pray. So I had one brand message which I could run in outdoor, which I could run in radio, I could run in print, I could run in television. It was one singular message going across multiple platforms. Today, because of social media, it's a two-way process. There is a social listening center that we have in the Coca-Cola company. And Sanjay, would you like to talk about the Coca-Cola Social Listening Center? And once Sanjay talks about the Social Listening Center, I'll come back to you and talk about how we are partnering together to use the Social Listening Center to create conversations and play an active role in driving the brand versus just picking up things about the company.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. This is Sanjay this side. So Social Listening Center was, something that jointly marketing and IT teams had put together, and we sort of went through a rigorous process of putting down our requirements and going through various vendors, to select the right vendor to help us do this. And in today's environment, it is very important to have a social listening center to be able to understand what's going on in the social field, in the social area, whether it's Facebook or it's Twitter or YouTube, etc. So that's the reason we decided that we need to have this in place, and we put this together.
Yeah. So that was the going in principle, that we need a social listening center. The real world is now 24/7. There are so many conversations happening around the company and the brands that we need to understand what is happening in that space. So the Social Listening Center was originally set up to listen in, to figure out what is happening, what are the conversations around the brand and the company on a daily basis. But last year, 2014, we actually took it to the next level. When we said, okay, now listening is only one part. How do you take part in conversations? And there is an example I want to talk about, which is the FIFA work that we did in 2014. FIFA, as you know, is it's a Coca-Cola partnership. We have been partners with the Federation of International Football Association from 1978. It's a long-standing relationship. Our Olympics relationship goes back longer, but the Olympics, I think football is slowly gaining more traction in India and creates more conversations. So we use the social media center as well as our digital partnerships with our agencies to start having conversations. And the conversations to my surprise, I mean, I was a thoroughbred conventional media professional. So to me, 16, 17 years back, the only media decision was, are you present in Mahabharat or you're not? If you're present in Mahabharat, you get impact, you get reach. If you're not present, if Mahabharat is not part of your media plan, then you don't get impact, don't get reach. But now, to me, just sitting in that digital center during the FIFA work that we did, it was an eye-opener. And I'll tell you how it was an eye-opener. There were 20, 25 people who were taking part in active conversations. So, specialization to me had a completely new meaning. So the way I define specialization is, there is a brand manager for Coke and there is a brand manager for Sprite. So somebody handles brand Coke end to end. Somebody handles brand Sprite end to end. But during the FIFA work, I realized that these 20 people, they were all domain specialists to create conversations in a specific space. So there was one person who knew everything about the referees. There was one person who knew everything about each team. There was one person who knew everything about wives and girlfriends. And that created maximum social conversations. So integrating Coke or a Coke Zero, wives and girlfriends of footballers, creating huge amount of social conversations. We got 6 billion impressions during our FIFA World Cup campaign. There were 84,000 unique impressions during the World Cup campaign. It is just unbelievable that a property like football, which is so alien to India, we were able to create a social listening center, which was only just listening, moved it into the zone of conversation, created 18, 20 people who were specialists in some domain, and you create multiple dovetailing conversations. You used our partners as well. So Deepika, Salman, who are our partners, our brand ambassadors, they started tweeting about the FIFA World Cup, about the FIFA World Cup conversations with brand Coke. It created a cascading groundswell effect, and it has been heralded as one of the best-in-class examples of how we use the digital medium to drive brand-linked conversations and drive brand. So to me, people ask me, can you measure it? Did the 6 billion impressions translate to sales? My answer is very simple. It's very difficult to do an input-output analysis. But your impression about the brand is based on multiple experiences you have on the brand. And FIFA was a fantastic experience that my core consumers and beyond had around the brand. And therefore, it all builds up to an overall positive groundswell on the brand. And to be fair, if Sanjay did not provide me two things, if he did not provide me the requisite infrastructure, I would have not been able to get it off the ground. And then his coaching on how do you, so our original hashtag was FIFA 2014 or something similar. Then Sanjay's feedback was include your brand in the hashtag because then you're creating a more targeted conversation. And that's how a CMO and a CIO partner to not only look at the infrastructure, which is the hardware, but also look at the software by which we can create impact on the brand and create conversations around the brand. The second example is an example that we did with Facebook. And one of the things that we've been struggling with my friendly neighborhood CIO is people have different instruments. So somebody has a feature phone, somebody has a smartphone. How do I manage to reach out to both these entities with the same overarching message of happiness that the brand brings, but target the messaging in a way that it is relevant to the end user, but segment it by the use of equipment, because the feature phone user is looking for a certain experience on the feature phone, and a smartphone user uses the smartphone for a certain set of experiences. We partnered with Facebook, and IT was very, IT worked with us very closely. So demographically and also economically, we were able to segment the feature phone and the smartphone users. And when they logged in, both of them saw two different messages. However, the messages were overarching, which was the message of happiness, open happiness of brand Coke. Also, as you look at the open happiness overarching message of brand Coke, the call to action So the feature phone user who's normally from tier 2 cities saw a message as hot summer day, the right time for you to reach out for a Coke, a direct call to action. While the smartphone user saw something in the zone of Coke stands for happiness, today is great, tomorrow will be better. Enjoy life's moments of small and large happiness with a Coke. So very different messaging, very different call to action, but all encoded in the overarching message of happiness. But when you logged in differently, you saw different messages. So FIFA and Facebook, two good examples of one using global assets, using specialized domain knowledge, using our celebrity endorsements, using technological platform, but both the hardware and the software to create conversations. And Facebook, great example of how we have been able to slice and dice equipment usage and then target the messages so that socioeconomically and demographically we're using different calls to action. Sanjay, you wanted to add something before you move to the customer zone?
Yeah, so I think the point here is, most of the organizations have already got a stable ERP platform, right? So the need of the hour for CIOs is now to go beyond ERP. And with the digital, sort of changing the game today, that's one area that we have to closely work with CMOs, make sure that we bring in new ideas, we work with them and try out new things and, see what works in the market, what does not. So that's a big opportunity for all of us here.
And I think one of the things that we ignore, but it's very important for the CMO and the CIO to, I guess, also personally vibe beyond the professional vibes, because we are both domain specialists, and there is always a tendency to dominate the conversation. But the CMO should know when to let go, and then the CIO picks it up, and the CIO needs to know when to let go, and then the CMO picks it up. So the brand domain knowledges are maintained always by the CMO, but the infrastructural domain knowledges, the equipment domain knowledges, and how to use that domain knowledge to create content where the brand can be central, that conversation is always managed by the CIO. So this letting go and picking up, the ability to trust each other and have a leap of faith is very important. I will go to the next slide, which is around, do I go to the next slide? Yeah. To the winds of change, and I talked about it, the fact that television advertising and will not be the panacea, and therefore bridging the gap to see the digital opportunity is going to be where the CMO and CIO will work together and make sure that on a case by case basis they share a vocabulary. The last but not the least is probably the most important area, which we tend to ignore, which is the customer space. We can talk till the cows come home on areas in digital where we can partner. The new way of looking at Facebook, like Coke Studio, we are very active in the digital space. Coke Studio, we have just launched the 4th season, but in the first 3 seasons, we use a digital platform to drive surround sound. So it just came and went. It was just 6 weeks on MTV, but it's got 160 million views, out of which 60 million views are through YouTube alone. So if you have to create content which stays alive throughout the year through an engaging digital platform. 3 million fans on Facebook, on Coke Studio, they keep interacting with us all the time. So for me as a CMO, it's very important to create content, and we listen to these 3 million Facebook fans, and Coke Studio 4 is a great example of using digital technology to course correct. So for Coke Studio Season 4, we are having 12 videos versus 6 episodes back to back, because the consumers told us on Facebook that, listen, we want Coke Studio to be always on. So every first of the month, we will have one episode on MTV, 30 minutes, which will release the song, look at the backstory. They'll have a studio version and a video version. So for me, the ability to interact with these 3 million people who keep talking to me and giving me inputs on Coke Studio so that I can fine-tune my plans is a big two-way process, and there a CMO and a CIO are joined at the hip. Enough about consumers, customers, and if you have, enough about consumers, and happy to take questions in the end. But the other thing that we need to talk about, I think, is the customer space. We have more than 1 million sales generating assets, which we call SGAs, which are coolers that we see. So these coolers can actually be a platform for us to communicate to our consumers. So more and more, and Sanjay, I'd love you to talk through the customer piece. More and more, the CMO and the CIO are playing engaged roles in driving customer connection. So I'll hand the floor over to Sanjay, and a lot of good work is happening in the customer space, wherein the CIO is leading, and me as a CMO, I'm providing facilitative support for the CIO to drive connections in the customer space. So Sanjay, over to you.
So I think there are some examples that I can talk about, and the origin of these is more, sort of joint ideation process between marketing, IT, and some other functions as well. Right. So based on that, we sort of select a few ideas which we want to take forward or do a pilot and all. So a couple of things that we're trying out, for example, as Debu said, we have more than 1 million sales generating assets, the coolers. So we try to see how we can use these coolers to help us engage better with the consumers, right? Because it's with technology today, it's not difficult to make the coolers Wi-Fi enabled and reach out to consumers for that. So that's something that we are trying out right now. There are a couple of other initiatives, the innovative ideas around crowdsourcing and all that we are working together on, which we can't share right now, but maybe in a few months' time we can. So some of these ideas have come out with our teams meeting together, discussing various technologies, various solutions that are available in the market, which has helped us, come to this stage.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. So I think now the bigger question that we grappled with, and this is about 12 months back when Sanjay and I were having a chat, and that, listen, all of us have ideas. The CIO has some ideas, the CMO has some ideas, our teams have ideas. But there has to be a method in this madness. If I had a rupee for an idea, I'd be a billionaire. And therefore, there was a need for us to set clear processes. What we have been able to do, and that's something that I leave behind with the larger group to consider. What has really worked for us are quarterly routines. Can we get better? Yes. Should we have a monthly routine? Maybe. But today we are looking at a quarterly routine which our teams have to ensure that anything that is happening is reviewed. So we have reviewed the FIFA work, we've reviewed the Facebook work, what is the learning, how do we go forward, if you do it differently, how differently should you do it. So there has to be a process. So the quarterly routines are working very well for us. The second thing is thinking by putting the other hat on. So when I'm thinking of an idea within the digital space, I would think like Sanjay and say, how difficult would it be for Sanjay to bring it to life? So wearing the other hat. So I've asked my Coke team, when they come with a brilliant Coca-Cola idea, wear the hat of your technology person and see, are you asking for the moon, or is this something that can be easily replicated on the ground? If there are roadblocks, how do you cover the roadblocks? So that's something that, empathy for the other person, so wearing the other person's hat.
Just to add on, and I know from our side also we do the same. So if we are discussing something with Devu and team, I think it's not technology only hat, because that's our job to get the ideas out in a non-technical way, more in a way that business understands the value that the idea brings to the table. So I think that's a two-way thing that we need to do.
Exactly. And the third thing which has worked is we call it the Innovation Day, and we do it every 6 months, wherein IT, and it's led by the CIO, he showcases the development in this space. So for example, there is so much happening. I didn't even know that there was a Vine which was 6 seconds. I mean, you couldn't do beyond 6 seconds. But the ability to tell a story in 6 seconds is what my brand managers are getting good at. So showcasing the new improved advancements in the digital space which we can harness to tell our brand stories is something that is done on a 6-monthly basis, and that's added a lot of value. So in summary, if I were to sum up of what, and I've been saying for the last half an hour, one is, to recap, the CMO-CIO relationship has to be redefined and is getting redefined. The CFO was the CIO's best friend. I think the CIO should look at the CMO, the new age CMO, as his best friend, and the CMO should look at the CIO as his best friend going forward. So that's the first change I would advocate. The second is leap of faith, play to position. The CIO should know when to hand over the baton to the CMO and vice versa. 3, co-create plans. The FIFA plan, the Facebook plan that I talked about, were all co-created. Although you will play to position, please co-create plans and review on a regular basis. 4, let's fail. If we don't fail, we will never learn. We have a lot of skeletons in the cupboard. Maybe this is not the right forum, but we have failed multiple times. If you don't fail, you don't pick yourself up and succeed. So be prepared to fail in the digital space. It's good. But if you fail, don't continue to fail. Don't prolong the pain. We have taken calls. So in Korea, we ran a digital promo on Fanta for 15 days. We realized it's going nowhere. We cut it. We moved on, because sometimes we need to take a call and move on. The customer space is very, very important. In our madness to do the consumer and the right act to get the brands going, we completely forget that the brands mean nothing if the customers do not bring it to life. So the entire thing about how do we make the customer's life easier through a CMO-CIO relationship, very, very important. The other thing which we didn't talk about, but big data, very important. We are generating so much of information. How do you move information to actionable information? That's where we are partnering on a regular basis. And then setting processes and routines. The quarterly routines, making sure that clear KPIs, think with the other person's hat, and finally do innovation days every 6 months. It's helped us immensely. I will pause here. We have spoken for half an hour. Unfortunately, we can't see any of you, and speaking into a phone sometimes can be challenging. So I'll pause here. We have given a bit of a perspective. I hope it was useful. We would like to hear any questions, any clarifications. We will pause. Mr. Girija, you want to pick it up from here?
Thanks, Debu and Sanjay, for this excellent presentation on how the collaboration is working so fruitfully between the CMO and the CIO. I think there's some fantastic insights that you have provided and some great work that you are doing. So I think the first question I have is how do you sort of solicit? You mentioned that you have a process to generate these ideas, and then you discuss them within the team, and then you have regular meetings. So the real question is that many times it's observed. This is a question from Kinshuk, and many times it's observed that the digital arena is mainly owned by the CMO. But how do you think the CIO can help when the digital world is owned by the CMO team? Because the CMO holds the brand, so it's like website updation, Facebook updation, everything is done by the CMO's team.
I got the question. So it's a great question. I think the way we are managing it, and Sanjay can chime in, the way we are managing it is Sanjay understands the platforms and the evolution of the platforms and what other companies are doing in that space much better than I do. What I understand is the ability to create the content to be relevant in these platforms. So what Sanjay would be saying is that, listen, Debu, if you're missing out on a Vine, you have a problem. In WhatsApp, this is the kind of content which is getting shared. This is how the other companies are leveraging this space. So your brand managers need to come up to speed and create work which will then be noticed, and this is how my team is going to make sure that it cascades into the next level. So we are trying to play to position. Sanjay cannot create content, and I cannot profess to understand the medium. As long as we are able to play to position, we should be okay. And and I'm telling you, today I'll be honest, in WhatsApp, I have not been able to create, I've been very good in YouTube, we have got some great examples in Facebook, but in Vine or in WhatsApp, I'm still struggling. So I keep going to Sanjay and saying, this is what I've created, and Sanjay then wears, the content and then says, well, maybe this is the kind of work somebody else is doing. Can you come back with something better? So we are trying to play to position. Ownership is good, but trust protection is bad.
Right.
That's the way I'm viewing it.
And also, I think you mentioned in the beginning of your talk that you have to let go. I think that was one of the things you say.
Right. I would just like to add, Giridhar, here that, the key is that you work together on things. So, for example, this whole, what we call the innovation workshop, which is more like a joint effort where we get different, vendors, different technologies in and, make a quick short presentation and then brainstorm internally together to see what ideas we want to take forward, right? And then we need to jointly work what's more feasible, what's going to work well and not. And then we pick up a few ideas which we want to take forward. The other thing that, which is an expectation from Debu is that once you decided on one or two ideas, we need to move fast.
Exactly.
Right? Now, we can't take 6 months or 8 months to develop any sort of idea on ID platform for consumer engagement, for example. So that's where, we again try and get, we try and get more and more cloud-based technology so that we don't have to develop much. Have a quick and dirty pilot, made ready, try it out, and then see if we need to take it forward as a big platform.
Okay. One important thing I must add is resource allocation, budgets, because that's where a lot of conversations fall through.
Right.
So the way we are trying to do it is any experiment in the customer space is being done by the CIO, and I try to, between us, we collectively try and figure out the resources. Any innovation in the content space, I do it, and I don't trouble Sanjay at all. So it is from my, marketing expenses, my content creation expenses. Any platform enhancement is again coned. So if tomorrow I have to move from X platform to Y platform, you have to host the servers from here to, let's say, a different zone. If Sanjay has a meaningful reason why, I'll try and first see if Sanjay has the money. If not, then we'll try to partner. Because resource allocation is very important. If we don't do it properly, that's where a lot of conversations break down.
I think that's really good. So Sanjay, I have a question for you. So from in sort of training and building the knowledge of your team to be able to interact effectively with the CMO's team, what did you have to do?
So I think first of all, there's a lot of external interaction that we do as a team, right? So, visiting some of these vendors, their customer experience centers, and then a lot of it is based on what's going on globally within the Coke system, right? We've got a huge Coke system, and, we do leverage a lot of things from our global knowledge management databases as well. So I think that's what adds up in terms of our knowledge capabilities.
But did you have to hire any different kind of people to help you to do this?
Well, I would say we haven't hired a different kind of people, but we have upgraded the capabilities of existing team, right?
Right.
So that's one. And second is, the framework also helps a lot. So, even while we say that innovation, you need to innovate, but, it's always good to put a framework around it. So that you're not going in the wrong direction with the whole innovation. So that framework, you need to have a strong framework in place and build the capabilities of your team. And yeah.
So this is a question now jointly to both Devu and Sanjay. So there are so many platforms, so many technologies coming up. So how do you guys decide, whether it is we should focus on YouTube or Vine, or do we need to do Facebook, or do we need to do some ABCD, some new technology which is coming up? Snapchat or Pinterest or whatever it is? How do you decide this?
So the way I view it,
is
if
the
you
call
look at
taken by the
even,
CMO or is it taken by the CIO or how does it happen?
I think Sanjay alerts us on the new emerging technologies,
Okay.
and then I have a media team which does the due diligence on the platforms, not technology, the platform. So if you look at it, digital advertising in India is about 2,500, 3,000 crores, and it's growing at about 30%. And if you look at, if I take out search optimization, search is about 70-80% of the revenue. 20-30% of the revenue is non-search, and that goes into about 80% of that. 20-30% goes into Facebook, YouTube, and Yahoo. So
Right.
I think we are still in a safe zone. I'll give you the honest answer. So
Right.
most of my media money is still chasing the safe zone, because even in the safe zone, I'm not being able to create content which is best in class. So the way I view it is that opportunities will always be infinite. My resources will be finite.
Correct.
And optimally allocating these finite resources in a Pareto format,
Right.
wherein 80% of my allocation is in the top 2 or 3 things which people are migrating to as destination sites, and creating content which will travel is my biggest. So to me, even today, I'm optimizing my spends in the conventionally emerging digital, not
Right.
the non-conventionally emerging digital. My bigger challenge is to create work which works, and that's what I'm spending maximum time on.
Okay, I think that's fair. So there's a question for Sanjay, and this question asks that, have you set up an application DevOps team, or do you outsource it, or do you do in-house? What do you do, to leverage all these technologies and platforms?
Yeah, sure. So primarily it is all outsourced, and we generally work with outsourced vendors. I have people who are more involved in engaging with the various functions, right?
Right.
Deciding on the requirements and all, but the development work is either outsourced or pick up something which is readily available.
It's readily available. Okay. So you don't have any challenge in actually locating that skill set and managing the process and all.
No, there is a challenge. It's not easy to find a lot of these skill sets, but then you have to be on the lookout. And so for example, I also go and attend some of these forums, like last year I attended the Tech Sparks 30, which is like
Right.
the startup companies and all showcasing what they're doing.
Right.
So similarly, I've done other things also. So that's another place where you get to know the talent as well as the ideas.
I think that's a great idea, that you are actually going out and seeing all these new companies and seeing what they are doing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think that's a great idea you've given everybody, that they should attend more of these sort of meets to figure out these new companies with innovative technologies. Another question, this is for Debu, is, I know you mentioned in the beginning that you don't have a direct correlation between, sales revenue and the digital campaign, but how do you sort of inherently know whether something is working or not working and whether it's driving sales revenue?
See, now every platform like a Yahoo or a Facebook, they do their own math. So they have got their ways of looking at ROI.
Okay.
So one way of doing it is using proprietary tools, which you might say are debatable. I mean, there is no TAM for digital real. I mean, there is no TAM or a BARC for digital. Once BARC comes in, we will have maybe a more robust television rating system. So it's very difficult. So we bank a lot on that kind of ecosystem, wherein they provide us with a lot of data and ROI. But the advantage that we also have is we have a social listening center. The social listening center tracks the amount of conversations we are being able to create in the digital space to the work we are doing in the digital space. We have an in-house way of tracking through the social listening center.
Okay.
We have an external way of tracking, which is banking on the platform providers. And I think if you put these two data points together, you have a robust database to at least take a call on where it went, your activity.
Okay. So that's interesting. So Sanjay, a question for you. So technically, what is this social listening center? What is it in sort of technical terms that, if people want to set up their own, what do they do? How do they start?
So this is, basically it's a set of people and processes and technologies, right? And most of the
Okay.
technologies are something you can just buy on the cloud.
Okay.
So the tools that we use, the tools like Xpion, Sysmos, these are all available on the cloud, which help you, listen to the chatter. So
Okay.
these have a way of, defining what you want to listen to, and then they go down and, on the whole Facebook, Twitter, etc., they will start listening to the chatter, and then they have a proper dashboard in terms of presenting, what's going on. So
Okay.
it's not difficult to set up from technology point of view. I think it's more, you have to have the right people manning it, because this is also your face. When you start publishing content, this is also your face to the external world, right?
Right.
And you have to make sure that whatever you're writing on social media from a company sort of account has to be properly vetted by right people. Because we've seen a few examples in the past where some things have gone out.
Right.
Have created a negative publicity and challenges for the organization. So so the process to me is one thing that you'll have to put together with this.
But this is owned by Debu's team then, all these people?
Yeah, no. Basically, it's an outsource.
Okay, it's an
setup,
outsource.
But,
Okay.
Yeah, but based in our office, controlled by Debu's team. Also.
Yes, an outsource, but with all the ring fences, with all the NDAs and stuff like that. So that it's almost like an external arm of the organization.
Okay.
But depending on, therefore, the quantum of work increasing, then I can, I have the flexibility of increasing the number of people as well, which is very difficult if you keep them within the organization, because there are organizational structures which come into play.
Yes, correct. I think this is wonderful. So at the moment we don't have any more questions. So if we have no more questions, I think I would like to thank both Debu and Sanjay for hosting this wonderful session and giving us great insights into how the partnership between the CMO and the CIO is working. And we wish you many more successes in the way you are doing this thing. And we'd love to hear from you, as you do new things. I think it's been most educative, most interesting. And, thank you so much for sharing all these insights and, taking this time to be on this web conference.
Thank you very much. We had a absolutely rocking time as well talking to you guys. And if there's any feedback, we'd love to know. And really happy to be part of this wide community of people who we believe would have probably benefited from the journey that Sanjay and I have had over the last couple of years. Sanjay?
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to hosting you again at another conference, maybe in person next time. Thank you so
very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Have a
everybody.
lovely evening, everyone.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, and we come to the end of this conference. Thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, please do send them to us, and we'll forward them to Debu and Sanjay so that they can reply. So thank you so much for this attending.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.